Behind every world-changing innovation, every courageous act, and every big, breathtaking leap forward in history, there's an invisible force humming quietly beneath the headlines. A deep and unbreakable partnership. It's easy to get hypnotized by the image of the lone genius. The brilliant mind tinkering alone in a garage, or the activist standing solo against injustice. But Jean Oelwang, after years at the helm of Virgin Unite and countless conversations with some of the most extraordinary changemakers of our time, delivers a different, more hopeful reality. True greatness, she argues, is almost always a team sport. Not just teams in the corporate sense, but deep human partnerships, bonds so strong and so intentional that they act as rocket fuel for bold dreams. In partnering, forge the deep connections that make great things happen. Oelwang invites us into the intimate stories behind iconic duos and legendary alliances. She doesn't just offer admiration, she offers a roadmap. Because the truth is, these incredible relationships weren't built by luck. They were shaped by craft, by care, and, perhaps most importantly, by a fierce commitment to each other and to something bigger than themselves. In a world that feels increasingly divided and lonely, partnering feels like both a blueprint and a beacon. Let's walk through it together. The myth of the lone wolf. Early on, Oelwang tackles a myth so deeply ingrained in our culture that we barely notice it: the lone wolf hero. We love stories of self-made success, of solitary geniuses who rise against all odds. But when you scratch even lightly at these stories, you find an undeniable truth: nobody does it alone. Nobel laureates? 95% of them have worked closely with one or two collaborators. Entrepreneurs? Their best ideas often emerge from messy brainstorms with trusted partners. Activists? Always part of a fierce, loyal web of alliances. Jean's message here isn't just a historical correction, it's an urgent call to arms. If you're chasing a big dream, trying to fix a broken system, or simply trying to survive in a tough world, stop trying to do it alone. Partnership isn't a bonus feature, it's the foundation. Think of it like trying to build a skyscraper solo with a single hammer. Noble, but doomed. Building together multiplies your strength, your imagination, and your resilience. Finding the kindred spark. In nearly every legendary partnership Oelwang explored, there was a moment of magic, an almost spooky feeling of recognition when two people met. She calls it kindred spirit energy, and if you've ever met someone who instantly got you know exactly what she means. It's not always love at first sight, but it's definitely connection at first soul glance. It's the spark that says, you and I, we're about to do something amazing together. But, and this is crucial, Oelwang reminds us that the spark is only the beginning. Too many people meet kindred spirits and think, well, that's that. They assume the bond will maintain itself, fueled forever by good vibes. Wrong. Even the brightest spark dies without care. Kindred energy is the opening of a door. Building a lasting partnership is choosing, every day, to walk through it, together, again and again. The power of a shared purpose. If you think deep connection is enough to weather every storm, you're in for a rough awakening. Oelwang emphasizes that what truly binds extraordinary partnerships is shared purpose, a mission that transcends personal ambition. When two people commit not just to each other but to something bigger than themselves, they become unstoppable. Richard Branson and Peter Gabriel didn't just share friendship, they shared a relentless drive to use their platforms for good. The depth of their partnership was built around that shared calling. When disagreements arose, and they did, it was their mutual purpose that pulled them back onto the same team. Purpose is the invisible compass that keeps partnerships moving forward when the emotional weather gets stormy. Without it, even the most thrilling relationships drift apart. With it, even conflict becomes a source of strength. Brick by brick, how trust is built. Trust, Oelwang reveals, isn't something you declare once and then assume is unbreakable. It's built slowly, brick by brick, in small, often unglamorous moments. It's easy to think of trust as a grand, sweeping thing, a ride-or-die loyalty, but real trust is forged through 1,000 tiny choices. Showing up when it's hard, listening when it's boring, admitting when you're wrong, forgiving when you could hold a grudge. The partnerships that thrive are the ones that don't treat trust as a fixed asset. They understand that trust can erode and must be actively maintained. It's not a sentimental feeling. It's a living, breathing ecosystem that needs daily tending. Conflict is not the enemy. One of the most refreshing aspects of partnering is Oelwang's embrace of conflict. Conflict is inevitable, and it's not a sign that something is broken. It's a sign that two people care enough to wrestle with the hard stuff. In the extraordinary partnerships Oelwang studied, conflict wasn't swept under the rug. It wasn't left to fester until resentment grew into an unbridgeable canyon. Instead, partners leaned into discomfort. They fought, sure, but they fought with love, not with contempt. They fought for each other, not against each other. And crucially, they fought in a way that strengthened the bond rather than corroding it. Conflict, handled with maturity and mutual respect, becomes not a death knell but a growth spurt. Celebrating, not tolerating, differences. It's easy to love people who are just like us. But Oelwang shows that great partnerships don't just survive differences, they celebrate them. The greatest duos didn't try to sand down each other's edges. They didn't compromise each other into beige sameness. They leaned into their contrasting strengths. The dreamer partnered with the pragmatist. The loudmouth found balance with the quiet strategist. The optimist leaned on the cynic's radar for danger. It's the combination, not the duplication, that made them powerful. True partnership is about seeing the other person's weirdness, their wildness, their difference, and thinking, thank God you're not exactly like me. Rituals of connection, love in action. Extraordinary partnerships don't survive on goodwill alone. They survive because the partners intentionally make time to nurture the bond. Jean shares dozens of examples, simple rituals that seem almost silly but are secretly profound. Weekly walks, annual dreaming retreats, daily 3-minute check-ins. Rituals anchor partnerships. They are the sturdy boats that carry relationships across the turbulent seas of busy schedules, personal crises, and the numbing drag of routine. Without rituals, connection becomes a someday thing, and someday often never comes. Networks of kindred spirits, building webs, not silos. Although partnering primarily focuses on close relationships, Jean urges us to zoom out, too. Great things don't happen because of just one or two partnerships. They happen because of ecosystems of trust, vibrant, interwoven communities of allies and co-conspirators. Look at the Elders, a group of legendary leaders formed by Nelson Mandela, Richard Branson, and others. It's a partnership, yes, but it's also a network, a web of deep mutual commitment. In a lonely, competitive world, these networks become sanctuaries for creativity, resilience, and hope. Lessons for our own lives. Oelwang doesn't leave us floating in admiration for the greats. She brings the lessons home. To build deep partnerships in your own life, you must be willing to choose wisely, look for shared values, not just shared interests. Commit fully, treat relationships like gardens, not like vending machines. Communicate bravely, speak up, apologize, forgive. Celebrate difference, honor what your partner brings that you lack. Show up consistently, build trust in small moments, day after day. You don't stumble into great partnerships. You forge them with the heat of courage and the hammer of commitment. Final thoughts. Choose partnership, choose power. Jean Oelwang closes partnering with a message that feels almost revolutionary in its simplicity. Loneliness is not inevitable. Isolation is not destiny. We live in a world that tells us to hustle harder, compete fiercer, and protect our egos at all costs. But the true path to greatness and happiness is paved in partnership. You don't have to build your dream alone. You don't have to survive alone. You don't have to change the world alone. You can build rich, soul-level partnerships that make you stronger, braver, and infinitely more alive. The work is hard. The rewards are breathtaking. So find your kindred spirits. Choose them, cherish them, and go build something beautiful together.